Hello, everybody, and welcome to Capsule Cast Week 11. I'm your host, DoorGuard, with my co-host, Donut,
Hello there.
and our special guest this week, commentator and coach of Team Muscle. Hey, Ryan, let's play.
I'm sorry, did you say something? We're having technical difficulties.
Ah, yes, as always. So as you can see this week, we are redoing the Androids match for a third time, if you did not catch that.
Oh yeah. Woo, run it
Please
back.
check out the live stream. We really make it really fun over there. Well, if you guys are ready, we can slide into match one. I know certainly getting on to a good start. This was a good week to watch. Alrighty then. So match number one, Resurrected Warriors versus Grand Tour. Resurrected Warriors finally popping back on the scoreboard with a win. This match actually had a lot of great moments. Baby really showing off and taking out Videl pretty easily, but early Piccolo with that 13k ult turn it back around and making the match even. Both early Piccolo and Super Saiyan Vegeta tags. That could be the theme of this week, tags for life, because a lot of teams decided to just not stay in. 18 really popping off. Haven't seen this scary of an 18 in a little while. Her damage doesn't look like it, but she took out GT Goku and Pan, and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta tried to do what he could against 18 early Piccolo, but the comeback was just not enough, and Ader decided to blow up himself, and it took out everyone else. So it was a great match. I think this is the match Resurrected Warriors have been waiting on. Early Piccolo has been floundering around. Rumors of him leaving the team, signing a contract, going to the Red Sox, who knows where, but I think he really proved himself this week. So yeah, Ryan, what'd you think of this match? It was certainly a fun start to the week.
It was absolutely fun. The only thing I really remember on the match is early Piccolo getting that ult off, which I definitely think helped give them that massive lead that they needed. And then like Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, even though he had an uphill climb, like he's been one of their weaker links. Like Baby's been their most consistent character on GT, but like Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta like showing up and getting a almost 70,000 point run is pretty good on his showing. So even though GT lost, which losing sucks, but hey, you should be happy with what you guys saw on Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. And what was it? Shining, what's his rush B2?
That is a good one.
That's a fantastic question.
The
I have
shining
no
one's
idea.
his ult.
Yeah.
It's like shining
Um,
Bang attack or sparkling Bang attack. or
Whatever,
whatnot,
whatever
but-
his 4-bar rush B2 that goes in a
Mhm.
straight line, with him on a melee build against a non-defensive character, 9,600 points of damage.
Mhm.
Fantastic. So Donut, what about you?
I thought it was a pretty good match. I thought it was a huge upset. Just by paper, I was thinking GT was looking pretty solid coming into the week. Kind of clawing their way back into the division, and RW is kind of trying to fight for that third position with Sentai coming into the week. So I thought GT had this on paper, but the bit shocking moment for me was early Piccolo by far. I'd say we're used to seeing those 10,000, 6,000 damage output from him for a week, and to hit 80,000 this week is absolutely insane from him, right? So hopefully we can see some consistency on that end, right? One slight worry if I'm GT, I say Pan has been a little shaky over the past couple weeks. And she used to be very insane, right? Like we're talking about 50, 60,000 output. Now doing like 20,000, 13,000 on past few weeks here. Slightly concerning, but if there's a bright hope for GT, you have Baby Vegeta and you have Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta doing what they need to do. Like if you get that output from them, you should be solid. Patch up Pan a little bit, you should be just fine going into playoffs. For RW, this is big win, huge win, huge win. And you mentioned early Piccolo taking out Baby with an ult, and you said that puts them in a super big lead. And I agree with that because when you look at who had went down at that point in time, it was Baby going down and Videl going down. Those two characters don't match, right? They don't have the same like highs, right? They don't have the same
They
ceiling.
don't have They don't have the same oomph to them.
Yeah, yeah. So we know that Baby will be doing like 60,000 on average, right? 50,000 on average for the past when he wants to, right? And then we have Vidal who's like trying to hit the 30,000. So for them to both be down means a huge like 20,000 damage output possible for GT that they're missing, right? Which puts RW in a great position going forward. So I just want to echo that statement there. And yeah, very well done by RW until they had a game plan coming in. They fixed up early Piccolo. Hopefully that goes um, does the same performance week in week out from here on. And 18 looking back in form, so love to see that.
I mean, I think all of us can agree having a character with such a strong ult is great when he gets it off, but when he's missing, it can be terrifying times. So I think we all can agree that this is one of those good weeks where he did do what he's supposed to do, but fingers crossed on keeping it up because they certainly can still make it into playoffs. They certainly have. Only one team's been true eliminated at this point, unfortunately, but otherwise, like. We'll get onto that part later, but yeah, I mean, great work by both teams. Shin Vegeta, yeah, that's next season. Now, Shin Shenron and Vegeta coming back this next week will really help both teams out in their next battle here.
Definitely.
Well, do you guys have any final remarks? Are you ready to get on to match number 2?
Let's do match number 2.
Match 2.
Match 2. Royals, Sentai. Who will win? You decide. Well, I didn't get to decide. So, gotta be honest, Pilaf staying on his own hype train and taking out another full character. Certainly not what he was looking like as a 30k average character, but doing near 60k this week. Full on taking out Birder. I will say, though, probably the boring part of the match, though, was they're both on, like, defense +3. So, let's just say it was two slow rocks rolling up a hill at each other. It took a minute before something really happened. But good on Pilaf for staying on his own hype train. Another match of lots of tags, Saiyaman tagging, Slug doing what he always does, just go big and tag. Majin Vegeta having a little bit of an underperforming week. I would actually say this is about a third of the damage we've seen normally. He does manage to take out Ginyu and Saiyaman, but it's only because he just has a little bit left to do. Or sorry, Saiyaman takes him out, but he does manage to take out one character, but just barely. Mecha Frieza doing his thing, coming back, finally bringing back his stats a little bit. And Jace, who's probably been down at the bottom. He was the last place character in stats for a good while. Finally showing up. Unfortunate that he decided to ult a giant character in Slug and have his initial savior ult blocked, but think if he had hit one of those, like it really came down to less than a 1 bar difference in the end with him versus Mecha Frieza. So I would have to say, like, in terms of match, this was a fantastic match. Another theme that happened this week, less than 1 bar of health left on the last player on the field. So this was one of those matches, and gotta hand it to Sentai really bringing it to a pretty impressive Royals team this season. So Ryan, how'd you feel about this match number 2?
The beginning was a great showing for both Birder and Pilaf. Pilaf had come out ahead, but Birder did 40,000 without taking his man, which is a little discouraging. But it was because of all that defense. I believe Emperor Pilaf, because the match ended up going so long, just against Birder did like 49,000 damage. So, I mean, that's definitely a nice way to like inflate the stats. Slug, I'm honestly surprised Slug is doing so well. Even like in his big form with his slow melee and all of that, Royals have been getting him to be pretty solid. The match, from what I can remember, very entertaining. Bit of an uphill battle if you look at the stats for the Sentai squad, in which they did ultimately lose. But I mean, it was, like you said, 1 or 2 bar difference between loss, so that's a really good showing. Everyone on Sentai squad did at least 40,000, so that's really nice. And something to note, out of the last 5 weeks, this is the 4th week in a row that Majin Vegeta has done under like 45,000. So it may be something of Royals might be like Majin Vegeta might be getting countered, basically, which could give which seemed like it would have given Sentai Squad a bit of an advantage, but sadly it didn't go that way. What about you, Donut?
For these, I'm gonna be honest. I thought Royals would win this going into the match, just because of how, if you look at on paper, some of the characters that are being mentioned right now, you have Jason, Berta, and you have, Frieza and Majin Vegeta. You're like, well, one is not like the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say the start of the match was basically like the wet noodle fight, and that was very, very sad to watch, just as a entertainment factor. But as it got on, and you saw like hopes of life for Sentai, you're like, holy crap, they could do this, like actually do it, right? And I say it was just 1v2, one ult away from doing the upset, right? And it would have been great for this season. Unfortunately, they ran into bid form Slud, right? And that's a problem. When you have all 5 of the characters having rush ults, right? And that's just a problem in itself, as we know for any character, basically. Barring 17, or not barring 18. And then one character I want to mention a lot is Pilaf, right? He's been quietly one of the best members of Royals. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Easily one of the most consistent members of the Royals is Pilaf. And as if you asked Buzz at the start of the season, he said there's no way in hell that Pilaf's gonna be one of the most consistent characters. But he's showing week in week out being able to put up decent enough numbers, right, for them to pick up wins. And that's exactly what you want, right? Especially from your perceived worst. I will say, going on to the Majin Vegeta saying that he's done worse and worse, it could be a counter, but it also seems like some of the characters that were underperforming heavily for the Royals, like Slud, like Mecha Frieza, who is having those like weird 10,000, 7,000 weeks, is now taking their weight, right? Which means there's not enough for Majin Vegeta to actually do, right? So it could be a combination of both of those, right? Sometimes Majin Vegeta comes in, gets hit with a 20,000 ult, and that's just bad news bears, right? but that happens, right? As we know, it does happen sometimes. But Sentai, I don't think you look at this loss and be too demoralized for this. I think they had a pretty good game plan going into it. Maybe we say, hey, if we didn't have, X character in instead of Say Woman, if we had those two reversed, maybe we win. It's a what if scenario. You always look it back on, but I think they did a very well-rounded performance from every character. There's no one you can look at and say, hey, this was where we faltered. It was just, the chips didn't fall on your way this time. I think if you take this performance, you say, hey, these all worked well. The AIs, the builds looked fine. This should give you hope going into next final weeks of the season.
Yeah, the only final remark I would say is it's always sad when your team loses, even though total damage was more.
Yeah, that's the worst feeling, isn't it? Because you have the damage output, you did enough to do it on paper, right? It feels bad. I understand that.
Yeah, and with Sentai Squad, I mean, you're still not out of the playoffs yet, so you still have a chance to get in there.
Yeah, you still pass RW, so he does have a divisional, so they have to.
There's many factors in these final weeks that will make it very interesting lead up to playoffs.
Yep.
Well, you guys have any final remarks, or are you guys ready to get on to match number 3?
Number 3.
Sure, let's do this one. Well, match number 9.
Number 3. We may not get much response from Donut, but he is here. Just know
I am here.
So it was an unfortunate loss for him, hence why I don't even know why he's on the cast this week. But hey, can't dodge them all. So I will say, on the bright side, congratulations, Android 17, not only returning to form, but showing off that form. And this was the memed match that got redone, but that's not even the biggest deal. The deal is both times Rugrats managed to etch out a victory, and it was a pretty good match, I would still say. Obviously, 17 on his super build return, taking out Cell Jr. and tagging is a great way to start a match. And Cyberman, even though he wasn't quite on his Kid Buu killer form, still doing 30k and getting finished off by 19. But Base Trunks, or Kid Trunks, decided to come in and just kind of throw androids back for a loop, taking out 19 and Super 17 with a 10k ult and tagging. Aurelie comes out and has a pretty good, now she's on her new melee build, and she's shown she can still pretty much handle most of the issues, going pretty good with Cell here. And finally 17 doing what he needed to do to try to make the comeback, but it just wasn't quite enough. Another match, a second match in a row now, where there's less than a bar difference at the end deciding the victory. So another match as well where the losing team did more damage than the winning team. So a little unfortunate, I would say, though. As a whole, it was a very good fight by both teams. I know 19 didn't quite do as much as he needed to do, but he came out and he tried to show off his big body, but unfortunately Rugrats are a little too short for that. So what do you think of this match, Ryan?
Let's see, the first version or the second version? So, if we were to look at like both versions, there are some things to take away from both, but that's actual match, the one that actually counted towards the win or loss. Android 17, who had, statistically speaking, been the worst member of the androids this season, showing up, getting an elite performance, just dominating basically two characters before tagging, and then even coming in later in the match and keeping that train going. It makes the androids a lot scarier going forward. And Kid Trunks just coming in and taking it back. It's great to see two very strong characters on both teams basically swing the match back and forth from one another, which I thought it was very entertaining. So, Donut?
Well, I have a little bit to say on this one. On both of them, but I'm going to talk about this
So
one
match
mainly.
number 4. No.
Yeah. So obviously 17, there was a whole meme last week. I was refusing to even acknowledge him as a character on our team for after that abysmal performance the previous week. But this week he's back on our good side, so thanks 17 for doing your job finally. DoorGuard used to be very familiar with that build. Actually, that was the one that he dominated Super Boo on in week 3. That was the exact same build. So I want to make sure to bring that back, and it did exactly what he wanted to. So I was happy with that. The character I am most upset with is 19. Obviously, because he's doing 12,000. That's not enough, right? As a rebuttal to that, it was the only week he's done under 29,000, right? Every other week it's been roughly around the 40,000s. So I'm assuming this is going to be a one-off type of scenario, and he'll be back in form in the upcoming weeks, right? So I'm not too concerned about that. Cell, it's a Rayleigh. What do you want to do, right? That's the direct counter. If you need a character to counter Cell, it's a Rayleigh. Then Super 17. Don't know what happened, to be honest. I guess Kid Trunks is just Kid Trunks, and Aurelie is Aurelie if you look at either matchup. And yeah, there it is, right? Kid Trunks and Aurelie were both in the All-Star match for a reason, and they both showcased why they should be considered a very huge threat, no matter what team they face. Cell Jr. struggled heavily against 17 after doing a very slight lead earlier into the match, and then just kind of dominated by 11,000 damage B2s, and that's just, it feels bad if you're Cell Jr. Or Cyberman, either way. But Cyberman actually did really well. I was actually very surprised by him, because in the first iteration of this match, he got dominated by 19. In the second one, Cyberman dominated 19, right? So it was a direct inverse of what happened in the first iteration of this match. So if you're Rugrats, you look at Cyberman saying, hey, that's okay. That's fine, He went with the acid, he went with the high-speed rushes, he threw out some of those, he got in 19's face, didn't allow him to grab, all good things, right? Rugrats, they had a good plan, they came out swinging. At the time I was a little upset, but looking back on it, I think both teams did enough. Like, if you play this about 100 times, it would be about a 50-50 split between these two teams, I'd imagine, right? They're both very even teams. And the damage output shows that, right? And I think both teams have a lot to grasp on, say, hey, this is a good thing. They have some stuff say, hey, this is a problem, we gotta shore this up a little bit. But both should be able to, if they make playoffs, make a deep run into it, I think.
Yeah, and with the subs that were out, Android 16 and Goten, two very strong characters coming back, you can see why both teams pick them at the same time. They're such big threats that'll be added into these next few matches they have that that's just kind of one of those, who do you take out versus each other? It just seems like a very even team matchup here. So
yeah.
Do you guys have any final remarks then on match number 3? Are you ready to slide into match number 4?
I'm just glad we didn't have to redo it a third time.
Yeah, the one time I didn't even mention it. Bleep mentioned it in chat, saying, "Hey, they had the lightning bolt thing." I was like, "Oh, okay." I guess I'll mention it to Tosh, but and then you guys handle it from there. But one thing I have to note: this is Android 17's only elite performance ever in the league.
Oh.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
first for everything, including
Yeah, I don't check
Blues
them now.
doing something.
Yeah. So
Well, let's get
yeah,
on
it's only
to
elite.
match
do match
number
4.
4 then, before 17 gets 2 over himself. So our
Yeah,
first
we need 'em.
divisional of the week, and the reason why Oasis maybe didn't want to be on this week, fair to him. We had Namek versus Earth Defenders. So just a quick overview for Boost. Namek, with the little Zenny they had left, put a Super +1 on Nuova, giving him Super +3. And Earth Defenders, mid Vegeta started, so they gave him Righteous Fighting Spirit, so he had Max Ki, Sirius on Tien, and Kabito's Secret Arts on mid Goku, which I know there was a little contention since he was, I believe, initially banned from it, but it was allowed as a boost or something or the other. Don't know the rulings, I just know there was some talkings about it. So, I mean, in terms of a match to go by divisional, this was probably one of the tag heaviest brawls we've seen in a while. I think both teams had several tags. Tambourine and Mid Vegeta starting off, going down to half a bar. Then they both tag, so that's always a fun start. Tien coming in, doing his 2-bar tag. I think he learned from Slug, but he didn't get the big transformation, so didn't learn well enough. Base Mid Goku versus Late Piccolo actually was a pretty fun fight, really going, but they both also tag. So still nobody dead, lots of tags. Nova coming in, tagging out at a bar left as well. And here's where Mid Goku comes back in and just starts kind of popping off. But just not enough to take anybody down, even though he goes Super Saiyan. King Piccolo, who has been on the lower end of productivity for Namek, taking him out and even doing a little against Mid Vegeta. Krillin coming in, and he's actually he's been to a degree on an underperformance, but he got his job done today, taking out King Piccolo and even finishing off the little bit left Nuova. So it came down to Late Piccolo. He's doing everything he can. He even hit a full charge, max power 16,000 special beam cannon on Krillin before finally being taken out by the last character, Tien. So tag heavy brawl to get this divisional. It was unfortunate for Namek to not be able to quite get through these divisionals as well as they were hoping, but I think both teams really threw out a lot. Both had surprising characters out, Nail and Yamcha being the tanky, stally guys that have been very solid for both squads. Both the defense +3 characters, but all aggression was needed today, and as we saw, certainly was a batch. And for the third match in a row, the losing team did more damage. So just a little unfortunate, but in total, they did have their EL user out where Earth Defenders had him in. So, and with the amount of taggings, the HP regen was actually kind of bananas. I don't know how these were under 190k with how much tagging was going on. So, what do you think of the match here, Ryan?
Well, going into the match, I pointed out that it was a very important divisional. With, I believe it was one of the matches later on. I mentioned that if Earth Defenders won, which they did, Namek would possibly fall to the bottom of their division, which is a bit shocking to see that, you know, the original undefeated team of this season, who went 6-0 for the first 6 weeks, now in the last 5 has gone 1-4. So, you know, that could say a whole different thing. But very fun match. I'm going to bring up the contention on the Mid Goku portion. So they had bought a Kabito Secret Art for Mid Goku. However, the website said that Mid Goku was banned from Kabito Secret Art turns out, I guess according to one of the staff members, that he's only banned from it if he's in Super Saiyan form. And then there was a whole other discussion because he can transform, but basically he was allowed to use it in the preseason during base form. So for this season, at least, they're allowing him to have Kibito's Secret Art. If that changes in the future, we'll see. Overall, very fun match. I really need to watch the weeklies before getting into these sort of conversations because there's not too much that I can really remember. Just a nice 16,000 point combo by late Piccolo. Fantastic for him. I think that was a special beam cannon, not a
full
ultimate.
charge special beam cannon, which is not his ult, which he was hit out of.
Yes.
Yes.
Sadly, his ult got hit out of, which would have been great to see, especially on the map that they have. But it just did not seem to go Namek's way. Hopefully, in the last bit of the season, they'll be able to go back to that sort of undefeated streak that they had for a while. But who knows? Donut?
Yeah, I thought this was probably the most even game we had coming into the season, into this week, right? Both of them, obviously being relatively the same on the record, but just in terms of characters, they've all worked with most of these characters before, right, in past seasons. So I think everyone kind of knew what they wanted from each character, and it went about as I thought it would, back and forth, tag heavy, both teams having 2 tags apiece, and mid Vegeta matching late Piccolo, and then mid Goku just doing enough to get them over the hump, right, as well in terms of damage. It's interesting because I don't think either team can look at it and say, like, oh, what is doomed now? Obviously, it's divisional, and this is really good for ED. Namek, I obviously have the characters to go undefeated the rest of the way. They have, they have enough to push them into the playoffs. I don't doubt that. But it is still an uphill battle a little bit now. I think they did also lose the hybrids as well earlier in this season. So this is really a little bit of a problem on that for divisional head-to-heads. So they need a little bit of help from other teams. And you were mentioning that they had King Piccolo, who was a little bit on the downward swing in terms of the characters on Namek, and you're saying that Nail was in, who was one of the stronger members, more consistent members. And according to Oasis, he posted in general chat, I believe, that the reason they benched Nail for this week is because they face androids later into the season. And I don't know why that's a reason, but I guess I'm going to find out. I don't know.
Nail secret tag coming in.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But that was one of the reasons he mentioned for benching Nail this week. So I wonder if they have like a pre-planned schedule for benches and this is how it lined up, or if they're doing it on the fly, or what's happening. But yeah, it's interesting looking at some of these benches saying, well, why would you bench this person here? And well, maybe you save this bench for later when it's not a divisional, or do you just say we're going to kind of wing it for this one and hope, let's throw it to the wolves and hope for the best, right? So different mentalities going into it, but yeah, overall very fun match, very back and forth match. Both teams have characters who popped off a little bit, almost doing 70. Both characters have some who are like, King Piccolo, Tien, Krillin, not feeling ya. But they need to step up in the upcoming weeks. But both teams very strong, should be well in contention for playoffs.
Well, I don't have much more to say on this match, besides maybe get these guys into the WWE for amount of tags. Do you guys have any final remarks for match number 4 then?
No.
No, just hopefully Nail doesn't destroy me.
We will see. Maybe he can blow up the planet now.
Maybe.
Moving on to match number 5, the second divisional, and the reason Ryan is here. Match number 6 is we have now. So
wait, I'm here for a reason.
Maybe I have no idea anymore. Maybe it's just to explain the one thing. So you can take a nap now. So we have Muscle versus Derp, and as you can see, Derp was unable to take out the Mountain of Muscle. That is Team Muscle. They got a small victory we'll go over in a minute, but it was more of Muscle doing that to themselves. And with that, Derp is the first team eliminated from playoff contention. So There
That's in
were
chat.
more than a few boost use. Muscle throwing their Zenny into an attack +1 on Broly to give him attack +3. Derp giving an attack +1 on Salza and Kibito, making Salza have defense +2, attack +1, and Kibito attack +3. A Sirius on Devilman, trying to help his melee. And they changed Hercule's build and then spent Zenny to put a boosted Dragon Power on him, so he has more stats to start. So, an interesting note, Super Trunks was benched this week against Derp, but to be fair, there's been more than a few people stepping up for Muscle to help out. So, kind of a fun start. Salza really showing off what he can do and forcing 13 to transform and tag with the bar left. Super Saiyan Broly coming in, though, and deciding he's going to just try to finish the match on the spot. Takes off Salza, kills the Snowman Raditz Jr. in his rage with a misthrung trap shooter, and finishes off Devilman. So technical triple kill for the Beast. And then the champ doing probably one of the craziest things we've ever seen on his last bar, False Courage, rush B2 through a Broly eraser cannon, nearly dying and taking out Broly. So I couldn't even say. You have to go and watch that. It was just
That
the
was
champ.
funny.
The champ doing what he does. Roshi coming in, putting the champ out of his misery to keep him looking good. Kibito comes in and takes out Roshi. Bojack and then he tags and let Bojack just, he has bad stats, let's just make him worse. Let him do the 1k left remaining, which means that, it was a good attempt. I think both teams really pushed, but unfortunately for Derp, Raditz Jr. did not deal any damage, mixed in with Devilman just not really utilizing his max power mode or much of anything, unfortunately, this week. But the rest of the members certainly tried to step up to help, but it was just a little too much in the end. But congratulations to Muscle. Somehow you had two characters do less than 5k, and you still won the match, even with taking out a member on your own team. So, Ryan, how'd you feel about this match?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it very much so. Definitely the best part, as you mentioned, is Hercule just rolling through an eraser cannon to take out Broly. That was the funniest thing that I've seen in a long time for the league. Yeah, Android 13 starting off and doing what, like 85,000?
Yeah,
is amazing. As he was kind of like struggling earlier in the season, and then Broly basically being on the Trunks build that we had him on on Trunks's build that Trunks was on last week, doing a 66,000 damage total, means, hey, I'm getting really good at just giving somebody else's build. Master Roshi, I was a bit disappointed in. He did, like 1,000 or 2,000 to Hercule, and then only 2,000 to Kibito, which, that kind of stung. And then Android 13 coming in, doing most of Kibito, and then selfishly tagging to make Bojack now the worst ranked member in the league via stats. But I will say, Salza coming in, basically almost taking 13 toe-to-toe, and also getting some good damage against Broly. That Salza build, absolutely loving it. I was hoping that Derp would end up winning, because with 4 weeks out, I mean, that's still quite a long time for testing, basically, during the main season. So I was hoping that they would get a win, even though it was against my team, but sadly it didn't fall that way. Donut?
As on paper, a lot of people expected Muscle to take this win, and yes, they did. Congrats to them for getting it. However, there are some characters that you do look at, like Roshi. It's like, that wasn't a good performance, Roshi. You need to get it back in gear. No, just imagine that Kibito was Cell, alright? Then you got it, right? And then that just gets him into high gear, apparently. But I think Muscle shouldn't be too concerned by any means on this. They had Broly and 13 popping off, and when they did popping off, it's they're scary team, right? Just in general. And yeah, they'll be going into playoffs after this win, and we know how Muscle does in a 5-man roster in comparison to a 4-man lineup. So I expect them to make a very deep run into this postseason. So we know they can do it. They've done it 3 times now, right?
5.
Now
technically.
5 times. 5. I would say 3 times where I'm like, oh, well they faced us, but 5 times total, yeah. Now for Derp though, I say obviously F's in the chat for Derp, but they did what they could, right? They have pieces that are looking very strong now. Hercule, the champ, looking good. Salza, looking fine. Kibito has gone back into form as we've known him to do in past seasons, over the past few weeks, right? So he's looking back into what we expect from him, that 40,000, 45,000 ratio, right? The problem then lies with Devilman and Jiro, right? Jiro has moments where he hits like that 46,000 mark, and you're like, oh, it's not his fault we lost that match. It was, Kibito not living up to expectation. It was Devilman only doing 15,000, 14,000. And that is, something they have to look at, whether it be a straight up drop or a free agent pickup over the next off season. So I expect them to come back after some testing, after some regrouping, and make a big run for it next season. But yeah, I think they have a lot of good pieces, and they tried the HUD out. I know that they I believe they used a few boosts on this match. Yeah, they used a couple of boosts this match, and just didn't go their way. But I do think they have a decent lineup. They just need to make it just a little bit more oomph into that, and then they'll be back into contending form.
So, got a few questions for Muscle here. Just going over some stuff. I know you guys have basically transitioned almost entirely off of the Defense Plus. Are you looking to keep trying Bojack at this near ult spam and Roshi as a spammer as well, or do you think one might transition back to that kind of tank role? Because EL has also been missing from the builds for a while now.
Neither of those have really ever been our tank builds. Bojack, we had switched his AI this week. All of last season, he was on TNAI, and you saw how he did last season. He got an elite performance week 1, 2-3 ults every match, essentially. But then, for some reason, this season, he's only had 1, maybe 2 matches where he's actually done ult spam. Everything else has been, like, basically trap shooter spam. There was that one weird week where he's done barrier, and we had kept him on TN. We had kept him on TNAI for the first 10 weeks, I guess, now. So this week we had switched him to Frieza. We didn't get a chance to really see what was going on with the Frieza AI because he only stepped in to finish off Kibito Kai. So, not giving away everything. If we're going to keep him on this ult spam, we're going to be trying at least the Frieza AI. We may end up trying to throw maybe Broly on a defense again, just to have some tankiness. We don't really know what we're doing until like the Thursday of builds.
Agreed. We have certainly seen some major build changes, and I know Cinema's hoping Bojack maybe stays bad so they can have a reunion of Zangief and Bojack on a canon team. So, some interesting proposition, but I know Bojack's been a major contender. And I guess as another major question coming in here, what is the new snowman going to be named?
Yes.
So the new snowman. The only active supporter that I end up having right now is Iron. I think his name is Iron Fist, or is it Iron Head?
It's Iron Fist.
Iron Fist.
So the new snowman's name will be Iron Fist. We'll see him, I think, in week 13. Because next week we are away. So at least I think we're away.
Yeah, would have to.
Yeah, we're away.
We'll have the schedule up here shortly.
Yeah, so week 13 we will see Iron Fist the Snowman. So
Iron Fist Jr. perhaps. We will have to find out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, certainly an interesting time. Did you have any questions for our guest today, Donut?
Yeah, so going back onto the defense thing, do the characters you have get defense buffs when they transform?
there are a few defense buffs that I know of off the top of my head. I think
Okay.
Roshi gets a half
Hmm.
boost. Um, I think I know Broly gets at least a 1, and I
Okay.
think 13 gets a 1 as well.
Okay.
Um, but I'm not sure about Trunks or Bojack.
Gotcha. Okay. So in by thinking that mentality, let's say you have an attack +1, and then they transform. You have an attack +1 and a free defense +1, right?
Hmm.
Just given to you, which is really cool, right? That's basically I know what instead of a 7-point build, you have an 8-point build now, right?
Right.
For at least maybe half the match, no, a quarter of the match, right? While they're out, which no long way. So I think that could play into your mentality of not solely saying defense only or defense and EL, right?
Right.
So you can play around a little bit more. You have more flexibility, which is
Yeah.
obviously pays off a lot in the long run.
Yeah, and Broly's definitely been more of our tank. He's the one
Hmm.
that, if we do end up doing a massive defense +3
Yeah.
Eternal Life, he's the one that gets it. Trunks can do it because his kit's just amazing.
Yeah, he's
But
so
I
well
mean,
rounded.
he's so well rounded. But I mean, with Broly, if he ends up transforming, I mean, now you're talking power body with Eternal Life.
Yeah, that's
That's
what he
what
brought
makes
to
him
us.
scary.
Yeah, that's what he brought to us last year in the bowl, that defense Eternal Life build, and
Yeah.
it was not fun to go against. Tell you that much. So
We've
especially after the
also
transformation.
seen defense Eternal Life Bojack, so there's certainly a
That's
lot of
true.
variability that makes Muscle scary. It's the same way that
Yeah.
Sentai makes scary, as you don't know either their order or what they could be doing. So in the
Yeah.
end, it's just you gotta have to hope that you get close, but it's almost an
Hmm.
impossible task.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what brings Muscle so strong into that 5-man type of format, right? Just because there's so much you have to account for, right? So
I
much
think it's just
flexibility.
shout out to the third team muscle member, the
Mm.
random code generator.
Yes. Yes.
Just click, oh, what did the dice roll? All right, we're giving this guy this week. So
Yes. Random.org, everyone. Woo.
You know what? That's not a bad idea to do in week 14.
Not
yeah.
bad. Love it.
Well, are you guys ready to
Yeah.
get on to match number 6 then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Match number 6, Kaiju versus
Oh.
Cold Kingdom. Pseudo Saiyans versus Cold Kingdom, as we've had in the past, which is always a fun match to look forward to in the season. There was a mistake by Kaiju. They forgot to put in the home map, so instead of nighttime, we had afternoon. So only King Vegeta and Scouter Vegeta could transform this week just on map. Though if it gets blown up, Destroyed Earth does have a moon. So certainly a fun match. Raditz Sr. showing off this week, doing pretty good against Cooler, enforcing the tag. Or Meta Cooler, before Cooler comes in and decides to do his death ball for 15k and just eliminate Raditz. But shout out to Raditz Sr. trying to get revenge for Raditz Jr. this week. Bardock is also forced to tag at a bar left. He's still on his melee build and doing, for doing 61k and that being below what he did last week is still quite terrifying. Cooler hitting another 10k ult on King Vegeta, but he's back on his defense +2 Eternal Life build. I know he swapped a little bit this season, but he's sticking with that as now. An attack from King as well. So as you can see, another match of rapid tags going on after the minimal tags in the muscle match. Scatter coming in and hitting some more, still on a super +2, hitting some more 12k Gallic guns, sometimes garlic guns if the opponent hates garlic, and even going ape. Basically just lots of tag, lots of bombs, lots of stuff going on. A few ape transformations. I will say this is probably one of the longest ape transformation matches we've seen in a while. King Vegeta staying in ape for minutes at a time and doing several tags to stay in it. And I'd have to say, if you want to see what a tag game looks like, Kaiju did it this week to make an amazing comeback against Cold Kingdom, who certainly came out swinging and really got a lead going for him. But have to give it to them. Kaiju had a deserved win, showing how powerful correct tags can be, especially on a character like King Vegeta. So, Ryan, what'd you think of this match here? Got some big boys, but not in the same way.
Kaiju's the other team that's essentially mine. Ooh, that King Vegeta build. Ooh, people are like, oh, Bardock and Scouter Vegeta or Scarlet. No, King Vegeta. Absolutely King Vegeta. And the fact that the Kaijus like the damage difference between the two teams is massive for this match just by itself. And it's just always great to see an ape do things instead of, all right, it's an ape, it's gone, goodbye. No, the fact that they have King Vegeta working as well as he does in his base form, and then when he transforms, he's still as consistent. The Kaiju is one to be scared of. And I do like that this match was a employer versus union type match, in which the union won. So good. But I mean, Cooler is edging for that elite status there. There was, I think it was like the first 2 weeks, King Cold didn't even need him for those first 2 weeks, and he's just been consistently on a roll. So I could honestly see if it was one of these two teams, Cooler or King Vegeta become the next elite member. Donut.
So I'm gonna read off some stats real quick. Between these two teams, there was a total of 31 B2s thrown out, 6 ultimates, and 6 different tags. Now that is insane, right? Just on itself. Then you look at the stats on this, like the actual damage output, and it's such a weird match to watch. Because when you're watching the match, it felt like Cold Kingdom was ahead the entire time. It felt like they were ahead the entire time, just watching the match. And then when you look at it, you say, wait, King Vegeta, Bardock just, oh, okay, I guess that's what they do now, 60,000 plus, 70,000 plus, why not? Just nonchalant. And that's what Kaiju kind of does the past few weeks. They get off to a slower start, and then you just ramp it up with the tag game, right? With the ult game. And it's just like, where the hell does this come from? You just sucker punched out of nowhere. And that's what kind of happened to Cold Kingdom today. Not today, but this past week. And it feels bad for Cold Kingdom. And Spoofy mentioned it in general chat, saying how frustrated he felt. And I know that I felt that same exact feeling when I faced Kaiju. And they did the exact same thing to me. They lull you in. They did like, hey, we'll let you have an early lead. Then we'll just come back, blitz you with Bardock, blitz you with King Vegeta, and you can't do anything about that, right? And Ratum, Ratum and King Cold, I think Ratum did as good as he can with the B2 spammage, which is fine. Did plenty of that. That's good. King Cold just couldn't really get any momentum going, right? Medical couldn't get any momentum going, right? And that's kind of what they are. They're very momentum-heavy characters, especially King Cold. He's very just, he wants to be in your face, but if you ever like knock him back and you put him on the back foot, he kind of just like falls over almost, right? Which is weird. Because a character who's usually hits his around the 40,000 mark on paper, he's been kind of faltering sometimes. And I don't know what's happened with him over the past, but in off season and earlier in the weeks in the season, he didn't have this issue, right? But the moments throughout the season, we've seen him falter, and it's all momentum based, right? He's very much like 16. 16 is very momentum heavy. King Cold, same thing, very momentum heavy. And when he faces up against a Bardock or a King Vegeta who can literally just knock you out of that momentum, even Stellar Vegeta can do it, that causes problems, right? So I don't think either of these teams have too much cause of concern in regards to individual characters. I think all the characters are plenty fine. It's about making sure they all line up as you need them to, right? Kaiju, this is a huge win for them. Keeps them alive in a playoff race, right? They have 2 divisionals coming up against Budokai and Royals, both tough opponents, so they really needed this win to get them on that hype train going into next week. Cold Kingdom, slight cause for concern. Sentai's looking kind of scary. RW picked up the win last week, so they have slight cause for concern, but I do think they'll still be able to squeak into playoffs.
Yeah, neither team's in a safe position, but they're also not anywhere near a compromising position just yet. So certainly have a lot going for them. But yeah, both teams certainly having their characters struggling, and some build changes have had some good and bad results. It'll be interesting to see how they finish off the season. Do you guys have any final remarks then on match number 6?
Nope, not for me.
Alrighty then, let us get on to match number 7. This one was another doozy with hybrids versus Cinema. So poor Cinema are taking on all of Westkai in androids in their last 5 weeks. So they're they have to have certain characters out at some point, including Fasha. So they didn't want it to necessarily, you have to pick at some point, and this ended up being the match. And I wouldn't even say that really caused them to lose. It was a pretty well fought attempt, but hybrids came out swinging after their frustrating loss last week. So really fun start to this match with the short guy contest and Garlic Jr. versus Kid Gohan. And an uncharacteristic performance by Garlic Jr., who's been a 50k average character, really just not doing much. He does tag to come in later, but as we'll find out, he doesn't do much with that tag coming back in. Turles on a new Super +2 build, kind of showing off the damage of his B2s. Takes out Kid Gohan, goes ape, but as always gets taken down almost immediately upon going ape by Ultimate Gohan. Zangaya also gets taken out by Ultimate Gohan. She did her piece to him, but it just wasn't quite enough to take him out. Finally, Gogeta coming out to take on the Orange Menace and defeating him and Base Sword Trunks before getting slapped by their last member, Future Gohan, who now has to take on the last bar, Garlic Jr., and does so quite easily, only losing a bar in the process. So I would say it was a fun match. There were certainly a lot of ups and downs and some surprising moments. I don't think anyone expected Garlic Jr. to do what he did and just absolutely almost nothing. Congratulations to Sword Trunks, you hit an ult, you get a cookie for once, though I think hybrids may have poisoned that cookie with some raisins and not chocolate chips, so you're gonna have to do a little better to get the good cookie. So, and Future Gohan maybe didn't have a lot of moments to push his damage, so can't really take that stat into consideration, but, Zangaya hit a lot of stuns, Gogeta showing up, his Key +2 Rush Blast 3 build, actually doing quite a bit. In Turles, it'll be interesting to see the Key +2 with, or the Super +2 Key -1 with launches puts him back at neutral, which is what he's had all season, which isn't necessarily slow, but it's certainly nowhere near fast for a true spammer. So will be interesting to see how that adapts. So, Ryan, what do you think of this match?
Well, I predicted that hybrids were going to win. I mean, hybrids having one of the few elite members that we end up having. And I mean, just that start of the match, that Kid Gohan versus Garlic, and granted, Garlic, being an elite member, the fact he got shut down, I mean, oof, that is, it could have just been a bad matchup, but I mean, that's just showing how scary the hybrids can be with one of their non-elite members in Kid Gohan. And just like even looking at stats, it's just hybrids just have a all-around better average stat total than Cinema. And with having Zangaya in, which they definitely needed to bench Fasha as it was getting closer to a basically a bench lock. Zangaya, she did basically around her average, so she's doing what she consistently does. But definitely against a team as hard hitting as the hybrids, it's definitely basically a losing fight kind of going in. So that first bout, I feel like definitely cinched it for the hybrids. What about you, Donut?
Yeah, I agree. I think that first initial matchup with Kid Gohan and Garlic kind of like that was basically the match almost, right? Just Kid Gohan just kind of just did work on Garlic, right? And that's like, well, Garlic's at 12,000. It's like, well, that's not enough. If you're a past elite member, you need to be able to do more consistently, right? You have to, because that's what Cinema needs. They don't have that backup character to just dish out that 100,000 whenever they need to. Only one you think of doing it is Gogeta, and he's up and down as well, right? He fluctuates a lot. Obviously with Fasha out, they needed Garlic to do more. I still think they did pretty okay considering the start. Gogeta kind of pulled it back from him. Turles kind of pulled it back from him a little bit, but yeah, hybrids is such a scary team. Like any one of the characters has that potential to just pop off whenever they need to, right? Yes, even Sword Trunks, he has that one, I think 80,000 performance, something like that, 60,000, something like that. He has that one pop off match, right? And everything else has been subpar, but that one match though, right? And yeah, hybrids was the favorite on paper, in showcase in the actual match was also definitely the favorite. I don't think there's anything you look at and just say big red flag. It could have been a matchup or a fluke thing for Garlic. I don't put much stock into that yet. Considering past performances as well as for future, we know he can hit that 90,000 whenever he needs to. So that 23,000 I'm not too concerned with. Obviously, Cinema is a lock into the playoffs, so this is just for seeding purposes at this point in time, which is a big factor. It's not that the Ronda is a big factor. Make sure you have your home match for 2 of the matches, if needed. Let's not discredit that. And then hybrids, they needed this win because, well, they're in West Kai. That's it, right? They need the wins. And they still have a tough route to go in their own right? So they still have who else do they have? They have Androids, Rugrats, Nets to ED. They have a lot of tough opponents coming up. So they needed this one and they got it. So props to them.
Yeah, certainly is unfortunate for Garlic being a rush B2 and then sweep the legs. So if he can't hit either, which both have their strengths but some pretty major weaknesses, it can be quite difficult for him to get his damage in. And as we saw this week, Kikohan would just fly up and down, and all of a sudden the side sweeping beam missed out a little bit. So
yeah, that does happen.
Do you guys have any final remarks then on match number 7? Or are you ready to get onto the final match of the week?
The best match.
The best match, yeah.
All right, moving on to predictions.
Yeah.
No, just...
All right, moving on.
Match number 8, Budokai versus Bujins. As you can see, Bujins took the win, but probably only by the slimmest of margins. There was maybe only a couple hundred HP points left here. So great match to start or end the week on with Kidku taking on Maju to start. Maju tagging a bar left and having Evil Boo finish off Kid Goku, and Super Saiyan Goku coming in and hitting a near 20k ult on Evil Boo and tags with his last bar. Evil Boo doing as much as he could, then tagging out a bar. Cyborg Tao comes in and just decimates Kid Boo, absolutely destroys him, only losing half his life there. And then he tags at a bar. So keeping up with that tradition of tagging this week, and Goku comes in, hits another 13,000 ult on Majin Buu, and then tags, and then Goku also tags. Lots of tagging. Man, this match is, or this week's just getting real fun calling out the amount of tags. I can only assume that Ryan had even more fun calling it in stream, but Evil Boo gets hit by another ult. After early Goku takes out Maju, he hits Evil Boo with a ult on the ground, and then he throws another ult. Evil Boo tries to clash it, but loses, taking 17k. So Evil Boo eating like 3 ults this week. Early Goku tags with just barely like 1.1 bars, so he'll have 2 coming back in later. Majin Buu takes out Cyborg Tao. He blows up the planet with his ult against Cyborg Tao, so now we are at Hell Namek, which is one of the few times we'll ever see that version. And then he takes out early Goku with a Beam Clash. So really coming down, we have the canon end match. Super Saiyan and Goku versus Majin Buu. And Goku hits with another ult, 14k ult. Now they're both down to a bar, and just when you think that it could get any crazier, a few combos this way, a few combos that way, they both charge up to max power, but a Flame Shower Breath seals the deal for Bujins with the slimmest of margins left. I don't think anybody could predict it, how just absolutely insane this match would get. Both teams really throwing about all they had on the line here. Another just amazing turnaround. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. And Goku hit like 4 ults this week. He's just instant transmission Kamehameha is just kind of busted after this week. I'm tired of seeing it. And even early Goku's sticking with what he's been doing. So, Ryan, how'd you feel about the final match of this week?
Oh, it was such a good one to watch. The 2 beam struggles, which those are, you know, 1 in 1,000 that we ever really get to see them. We had 2 in this match, which is even more rare. And I think maybe throughout the first 10 weeks of the series, we've had 1 beam struggle in total. So the fact we got 2 in one match, amazing. One of them being a B2 ult by early Goku, awesome. Just an awesome match. And that end Goku, Savior, instant Kamehameha, definitely putting in work. The 3 that he did put him to his 40k for the week. And then he did another 40k on top of that. Nobody really performed all that horribly during the match, except for probably Kid Buu. But it definitely seemed like Kid Buu had just gotten shut down, essentially. So I wouldn't really take it away from Kid Buu during that match, as the match was just insane. It's a great match. Go watch it.
Yeah.
Donut, what do you think?
So we have another list of stats here. This match alone had 6 clashes, 9 ultimates, 7 of which from Budokai, 31 B2s again, and 7 tags. That's insane, right? And averaging, what is that? Almost 400,000 total points of damage between the 2 teams, right? So that's insane, just in itself. I think this was probably the best match I've ever seen in the DBZ League, barring maybe the Season 6 Bowl when Yajirobe put a Sensu Bean to beat the Super Saiyans, alright? That is the only one I can think of that would match this, in my mind. Like, it was just, go watch it. It was insane. Absolutely insane to watch. I had no idea who was gonna win. You won't know who will win unless you obviously watch this, but it's just, what a great match. Like, no team can say, like, hey, we lost this match. It was just be pissed off at the world. No, yes, Budokai, they did more damage on the day. You felt like you had the win, right? With the 7 ultimates thrown out, you felt like, how do we lose this, right? Then you say, well, let's see, you know. Bujins aren't no slouch. They did 19 B2s, 2 ults, 6 flashes, 3 tags. They did all this other shit they did, right? It's like both teams just played out of their mind. And I think if we get a rematch of this in the bowl, I would not be upset. I'd be like, give me this. Give me like 5 matches of this, please. Just feed me that. And Goku getting close to elite as expected, right? Evil Buu just going to town. Majin Buu was the savior for Bujins this match. Just so good. You know, Flame Shower Breath, Angry Explosion. Just so good. Love it. Best match of the season. Will be the best match of the season by far, in my opinion.
The only way we could make Majin Buu better is to give him Super Kamehameha Trap Shooter.
Yep.
Maybe one day.
Can we give him sleep?
Actually, funny enough, they've been testing, and it's another reason to check out the Discord, because we do actually talk with some modders, and they are finding ways to turn some of those B1s that we have to turn off due to healing, like Senzu Bean, into other B1s. So will be interesting to see in the off season what gets implemented and what not, because obviously I don't think anybody wants Bujins to get anything help, but the main talks was, hey, we could get Aurelia new B1 and we can give the Boos new B1s, and all of a sudden the talks stopped. So surprisingly, couldn't tell you why. So, but yeah, I mean, as in terms of an intense match, this one was pretty good. Super Buu and Nam aren't the benches. Not exactly bad characters, certainly characters that have their good and bad games too. So there's a lot of variability for what could happen in the future. Will be interesting to see. And I mean, people expected Bujins to win, but I don't think they expected it to be this close. So it was certainly a great way to end week 11. Do you guys have any other remarks you wanted to add then?
Just watch that match.
Yeah, just
we'll have to
watch
put
it
a spoiler up in the beginning. Just like, hey, can someone put a spoiler on?
Yes. Yeah, but it's interesting. Both the benches actually are very similar characters, right? Both melee, just in-your-face characters, and a lot of these characters are actually fairly even, like identical in playstyle to each other, right? So
yeah, we have ult spammers like Maji, and his Genocide Blast.
Yes, right. Lightning arrow, right? Love it, right? Yeah, best ult in the game.
Just replace your trap shooter; it'd be more accurate.
But yeah, these these teams, if people didn't put any respect on Budokai, they give them no respect now. They are a top class team in this league, in
We need
my
to get him
opinion.
more Gokus, dude. This needs to just be
Yeah,
some
I need
Goku.
one more. Just throw him one more. Give him another
One more
You know,
Goku.
that would do it. Get rid of Nam or Tao. Don't need them. Give him another Goku. But yeah, so
Cyborg Goku?
yeah, all right, I like it. But yeah, Budokai, I don't think they have anything to fret over. They should make playoffs if they perform like this week in, week out. And Bujins are almost a lock, I think, in my opinion, to make playoffs here. So yeah, excited to see what these two teams can do going forward.
Well, did you have any final remarks then, Ryan?
No, just watch the match.
All
Just
right.
watch the match.
Well, before we get on to predictions, we have another awesome graphic by our boy Raymundo of if we were to go into playoffs right now, what would it look like? And, you know, if there were to be a rematch, it would have to be in the grand final between Budokai and Bujins. So it would be a hard-fought match. As we can see, due to that loss, Namek would be just out. Obviously, Derp and Sentai would be out as of right now, but could certainly still make it in. They certainly have the opportunity. And as it is right now, Muscle would be in the off seed there, whereas Donut, unfortunately, could not represent on his side. He would be in the lower bracket for his Kai. But, you know, that's all subject to change. As you can see, 6-5, 6-5, 6-5. Anybody can pop off over there between Worlds, Androids, and Budokai in these last few weeks and take that bye and make it an easier time to get to the final. Really, all of them are just even. Like, even the 9-2, 7-4, 7-4. There's nothing stopping from Bujins going 9-3 at this point. Somebody else catching up.
I just love the Roshi and the Videl in this photo.
Yeah, very, very high def, but can't disrespect Slug. He's keeping an eye on the world here. And you know, why is Goku over here? Get Goku out. He's in the wrong squad. I know Earth Defenders have a Goku. Get him out. We don't want him over here. This is the wrong division.
It's fine. It's fine.
You guys ready to get on to predictions then?
Oh yeah.
One thing I do want to mention, almost all of the lower brackets for the ties are divisionals that have yet to be played.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
that is interesting. So that to tell a lot of how these ties will shape up going forward. Of, you know, maybe we see Namek come up if hybrids lose to ED, right? Who knows, right? So
yeah, a lot can change here. And
a lot can change here.
4 weeks, 4 chances to get something changed.
Let's do it.
Alrighty then, so on to predictions. Here's the updated graphic so you can see who has won and who has lost. Moving on to week 12 next week, we have starting off Androids versus Hybrids. I think this one's going to be an extremely tough one. This could be one that's similar in intensity as a lot of the matches this week with that half bar left. But both teams have a lot of struggling characters, so I probably would have to give the slight edge to Androids, both being on their map and Hybrids having 2 spam characters, just being might be just a little too much to try to take out the Androids on Glacier.
Looking at benches, 16 comes in for the Androids, and Teen comes in for Hybrids. None of them are almost bench locked because there are still teams that might be. Let's see. Does the Hybrids have another divisional is the question. They do.
They do.
So Teen, Sword. So I'm going to guess they're probably going to bench Kid Gohan, which I think is going to end up making them a bit weaker. So I'm going to give it to Androids.
All right. So considering
Moving on
this
to match
will be
number 2. Oh, okay.
considering this will be released on Friday after the lineups have been released, we are predicting a Kid or Sword bench, and we are trying to preserve maps, so do the math on that one. Yeah, 17's looking strong, Cell's looking strong, 16's on back in, and if preseason is anything to go off of, I know it's a lot has changed, but if anything to go off of, 16 and 17 to be forward against Hybrids in that match on their map. So that bodes well. 17 doing elite last week bodes well, so I'm gonna go Androids, obviously. No bias at all. But I am definitely scared about hybrids. So they have future ultimate teen, and I'm like, oh shit. basically all I'm thinking right now.
All right,
Well,
Vince. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I am just gonna say that more than likely they're not gonna bench Sword Trunks.
I highly doubt it, but it's possible. It's still possible. We put it on the radar at the very least.
I highly doubt that, but okay.
Yeah. I mean,
All
yeah,
right.
plan for everything.
Yeah. So, going off that, we have a 3-0 for Androids. Moving on to match number 2, the first divisional of 2 this week. We have Budokai versus Kaiju. Obviously, with how close both their matches were, it's going to be insanely difficult to truly predict. And this is going to be on Budokai's home map, so no guaranteed apes. But I think I still have to give it just barely to Kaiju. Kappa Nappa coming back in. They certainly have the burst, and they've shown that they can make use of even the slimmest of margins to make a comeback. And not to tout Nam, but he has been on the weaker side this season, so it will be interesting to see what boosts come into play. But I would have to give it to the slight edge to Kaiju here for match number 2.
Nam coming in, Nappa coming in. The issue with Kaiju is unless they bench Scouter here, they are then bench locked. So if they don't bench Scouter here and they bench either King Vegeta or Raditz, then their benches are Scouter, whoever they didn't bench, Scouter. So I'm going to actually predict that Scouter's going to get benched here for Kaiju, which is their third best character, especially in a divisional. And that may be so that they have their best characters against the Royals.
They face
and then
next week in a divisional.
Yep, which they then face next week in the divisional, and I'm going to predict that early Goku, even though he did pretty well in this last week, I think he's going to be the one benched. So it's going to be a full-powered Budokai, their strongest members, versus not the strongest members of Kaiju as my prediction, and with Zenny totals, because that's also something we need to take in consideration.
Very true.
Kaiju currently has 18, and Budokai currently has 11. Ooh.
But Kaiju has 2 divisionals coming up.
Kaiju
Back.
does have 2 divisionals, so let's just cut that in half and say 9 versus 11, so they're basically even on that front. So I'm going to go with Budokai based off of the stat power of their team versus the Kaijus.
For me, I have bet against them every single week I've been on this cast, I believe. If not, it's been almost every week. I'm finally going to predict Budokai for a win, and I think they will get it. I think they just have such a good lineup. Everything's clicking for them. They showed they did pop off last week against Bujins. They got this.
Alrighty then, so we have 2-1 Budokai taking the win here, but with a divisional, anything can happen, and you never know what the benches will be. So,
Of course.
moving on to match number 3, we have Bujins and Muscle. We could probably skip this one.
Yeah, we don't need this.
I mean, obviously, looking at preseason, you'd expect a Muscle, because they, I think they 3-0'd and Bojack really popped off. But as the season's gone on, some of the characters that dominated then are not doing anything now. And, Bujins being 9-2 and me being a Bujins supporter, kind of have to give it to my team. But, I mean, again, off preseason, this could really go either way quite easily.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna, obviously I'm gonna have to go with my team. It's Trunks coming in and Super Boo coming in. So let me get to the main stat thing here that I'm looking for. So they're about. Oh no, actually Trunks has an advantage in terms of stats. Bujins don't have any divisionals left. Muscle does have a divisional left.
Yep.
So Bujins theoretically could end up throwing some Zenny at this if they wanted to try and guarantee a win. Even though I know that Bujins are very strong, I have to just give it to my team because I believe in my team. So
Fair enough. Well, I'll say one of these teams has Evil Boo, and the other team has 2 in the bottom 5 of the standings. So Rip Bojack.
Wait, Ryan, why are you disconnecting? I'm sorry.
That's fun. But yeah, I think Muscle has a lot of things to do in this match. They have 13, they have Burley, they have a lot of weapons, but I think Bujin's just a more complete team right now. I think they just have more, everyone's just really on point right now. So I think that'll do it with the Bujins.
Alrighty then, so we have 2-1, but I mean, 2 of the votes basically don't matter. So 1-0, but that's not a lot to go by. So
Lock it in.
hence, almost like this doesn't even matter.
Yeah, wow.
Hard to say. So moving on to match number 4, we have Cinema versus Namek. Cinema on their conquest to fight all of West Kai as put them up in preparations for playoffs. Strange game plan by them, but hey, I ain't to blame. So I would have to give this one to Namek. They showed that even their problem characters are really pulling back up, and Cinema showed some of their stronger guys maybe faltering just a tiny smidge. I know Namek are out of divisionals, being 0-3, so who knows what they'll do with their Zenny if they do. I know they had a small refund on a mispurchase this week, so they could throw it here, they could throw it somewhere else. It's hard to say. With next week being Androids, though, it's hard. It's even harder, but I could see them putting everything into this fight to try to get some secured wins. Wouldn't expect Nova out until maybe the last week just to get as much. So I'd have to give the edge to Namek here, but Cinema certainly isn't a pushover, and Nail coming back in and Fasha coming back in, it's kind of up there. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I think it's really going to come down to like who gets benched. Gogeta's in for all of Cinema's matches, and Gogeta, if he does what he did in this last match, Gogeta's going to definitely help Cinema towards some wins, but Cinema has some very hard matches coming up. Earth Defenders, Androids, and then Bujins right after the Namek match. I honestly don't know. It looks like Nameks have a slightly better average damage. But if Gogeta and Garlic are on form, I could see them grabbing it. So I'm gonna, even though they're in my division, I'm probably gonna give it to Cinema. Actually.
Oh, wow. All right. For me, I think Cinema has a lot of weapons. They have Turles, they have Fasha, they have Gogeta. They have a lot of weapons on their team. But I think Namek, they have what Cinema has, but without Zendaya. And Zendaya has been a problem, and Namek doesn't have a problem child they're working on right now, right? So I give it to Namek on this one.
So we have 2-1, but being as
Two of
it
them don't
is,
matter, right?
yeah, with Fasha coming in and all the other factors, this is going to be a fun match to watch and a great turn point for the middle of the week. So 2-1, Namek over Cinema. Moving on to match number 5, we have Cold versus Resurrected Warriors, the second divisional. Might have been easier to predict a few weeks ago, but with Resurrected Warriors coming off a pretty strong win and Cold frustrating loss, if early Piccolo can keep doing what he's doing, I think that Resurrected Warriors can take this. They'll have their Vegeta coming back in. Probably going to be Videl's bench here with Ader also still being solid and 18 being 18 again. I don't think Cold's going to be dropping any efforts here, but third form Frieza is not the greatest at the moment. He's had a lot of ups and downs, and with who knows if Cold is going to keep Raccoon or King Cold, but both have been on the downside in the most recent of matches, so I'd have to give the slight edge to Resurrected Warriors here.
Ooh, okay. So this is another team that, unless they bench early Piccolo, they're then bench locked, which means early Piccolo is going to be out of one of their 2 remaining divisionals. So Cold, looking at like stats, Cold has everyone above 40k in terms of stats. However, Resurrected Warriors do have 22 Zenny. So if they really wanted to, they could just go all in against Cold, try and get a win to stay above Sentai and force Cold to be less than them. Because I think this divisional is going to be more play than the Rugrats divisional for Resurrected Warriors. Because with that one being so far away, it's unpredictable what's going to happen in the 2 weeks between the two. And so it's and Vegeta coming in, and there's a guaranteed Android 18 with Frieza and a guaranteed King Cold. Oh, this is such a toss-up that I don't even know. I'm gonna probably have to give it to the Resurrected Warriors, just because they have a Vegeta and they have all that Zenny that they could do.
Alright. For me, I'll also W on this one. And Vegeta's coming back, and we know he can pop off. 18's looking pretty scary again. Ada's Mr. Consistent. And RW coming off a big win against GT. Cold is on a 4-game losing streak, and that affects morale, and it doesn't affect the characters per se because it's computer simulation, but it does affect the mindset, saying, hey, do we change things up? Do we need to throw a bone at something? Hope it does well, right? Or they have the Zenny, and RW has more of that, and I think they would spend a lot more here than they do in week 15. So yeah, I'll give it to RW.
So we have a 3-0 for RW, but being a divisional, there's a million factors that go in place, and even though RW also has the Zenny, you don't know if they'll actually spend it. So, but yeah, looking like a landslide vote-wise, at least for Resurrected Warriors. So going on to match number 6, we have Derp versus Royals. Obviously, I think Derp could sneak a win here coming off. They're definitely going to be testing some stuff, most likely, since they're really just playing for pride at this point. So have to give it to Royals, but I mean, a Derp sneak victory could always happen here.
Yeah, like stat-wise, definitely Royals. If they don't, I know who Royals is going to bench, actually. They're going to bench Majin Vegeta because if they don't, he's out for both divisionals they have left.
I mean, actually, bench Sled, please. What?
So,
can you off either of those, please?
Majin Vegeta is the guaranteed bench, and with Derp, it doesn't particularly matter since they're out. But I mean, they could end up, benching Derp, bringing their bench Jiro, bring their strongest team, and just make a showing against the Royals.
Jiro was just benched.
Jiro last week. Yeah, so he has to come in.
But new Jiro build.
Oh yes, sorry, Jiro was just benched.
Yeah.
So benching, I don't know,
Devilman?
Devilman or something.
But Devilman's ult, though, as we saw in preseason.
True.
At 30,000 ult.
I'm going to have to give it to, actually, because of Majin Vegeta being forced bench, essentially, I'm giving it to Derp.
Okay. Alright. So I'm trying to find a avenue where Derp wins this, and that may be it. I think Hercule could carry them very far. I think Salza is very consistent. He can do it. Only scary part I see is Giant Slud versus Kibito crazy combination, right? That could be an issue. But I think Derp has a lot of avenues to win. So yeah, I'll go Derp.
Alrighty then, so we have 2-1 in favor of Derp. The unpredictability of not being in it, they might just go insane. You never know.
Buy Zenny,
Elite performance.
Yeah,
just
could
buy
be.
random boost. Let's do it.
Could be. So certainly will be an interesting match to see, just for the very least a non-Majin Vegeta match. So moving on to match number 7, we have Earth Defenders versus Rugrats. I think both these teams are looking especially strong, both powerhouse teams of their division at the moment. But I think ED might just take it. Yamcha coming in, I know he's always been the meme of the animated series, but I think he's been incredibly strong this season. And I know Goten's coming in, but as a B2 focused build, if he doesn't hit, we've seen Kid Buu can throw 9 and only hit 2. Goten's thrown certainly many and had weeks where he hit him and didn't. So I don't know if it's as big a factor, but I mean, it's certainly going to be a fight here. So I'm going to have to give the slight edge to ED, even though I would prefer Rugrats to take the victory.
I'm going to have to go with Rugrats. Just looking at like stats, Goten coming in, and they do have a divisional later on in which Cell Jr. has been kind of crap lately. So, they're probably going to bench Cybermen, have basically their second strongest team. versus Earth Defenders, where it's just kind of hard to know what they're going to end up benching. So they're probably, I don't know who they're going to bench. I just have a good feeling about Rugrats this week. And who knows? Go Tanks.
True. It's possible. For me, I'll go. This one's a toss-up. It truly is. But I'll go with Rugrats. I think they're just in form. They have characters who can pop off. Goten's coming back in. Yamcha has to be in. And I think Goten will win that out if we go 1-1, right? I think Rugrats will take it. Yeah, I think they're looking more complete right now. They're looking better.
All right, 2-1, but these are both very strong teams. So this will be a match to keep our eye on. Certainly will, or I would assume it would come down to the wire. It'd be nice to see that. So 2-1 in favor of Rugrats. Moving on to match number 8, we have GT versus Sentai. This is another hard one to predict, especially coming off how GT lost and Sentai won. But it will be a return from Shin Shenron, who's been quite powerful, but also a return for Seiya Woman. So, I mean, it's really going to come down to who can keep their characters doing what they need to do. And I think I might have to give the slight edge to GT here. But at the same time, this is the spot where GT should theoretically lose based off of the home record for match 8. But I'm going to go against the grain. I think even though Sentai's been performing very well these last few matches, GT didn't drop the ball enough in their match this week to really be out of it just yet. And I think, I mean, this is certainly going to be a down-to-the-wire match as well. I think both these groups very similar focuses, so it'll be interesting to see who can pull it up.
Okay, so I would want GT to win because Trap Shooter, it's over. I would want GT to lose because they're in my divisional, but really I'm predicting they're going to lose because of the match 8. So, Donut, what do you think?
All right, well, I'm going to do a little bit more analytical analysis here, like thought process here. So,
Boo.
Sentai, they have no more divisionals, right? GT still has a divisional, right? I can see Sentai looking at RW saying they need to spend Zenny to get wins. Sentai needs to match and then overtake RW, hoping for some divisional losses for RW, right? So Sentai I can see throwing some Zenny towards this match, trying to get the extra firepower and take down GT to not only to get even with RW and then surpass them later on into the season. So I'll take Sentai in this one.
Yeah, they definitely don't have easy matches going forward to hold on to the Zenny. If anything, GT. No offense to GT, but GT's probably their easiest match for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, what, Budokai, then you have
Muscle, and then
Muscle,
Namek.
Yeah, none of those are easy, right? So, yeah, if you want to find it, maybe you find it at, GT, maybe you find it against Muscle, I don't know. Muscles has random Roshi dubs.
Yeah.
No. I was thinking, yeah, what, you think Budokai and Namek will fall to Sentai? Possible. Yeah, but after last week's performances, hard to just give them that. So
I mean, I would say any team can take any team at this point
Oh,
in the
of
season.
course.
So much
Yeah.
has changed since the beginning. Sentai has
like
even
we see
complained that their divisionals being so early when they were still getting things settled hurt their chances later in the season where now they have things under control, but it's a little late.
Oh, of course. Yeah, like Sentai, we know they can do it. They've beaten teams like Hybrids before, right? So, they can do it. So.
Well, otherwise, I have nothing else to add for this week. Do you guys have any final remarks for the cast?
I do not.
Spoiler for you two and for those watching. I'm commentating again tomorrow. So if you like my voice, I have my life in order, so I'm able to commentate once more.
Hell yeah.
Alrighty then. As always, please, check out the video, comment down below on any suggestions. We'll take anything. The Raymundo graphics, just a suggestion in the Discord server. Also follow us on Discord. Lots of conversations. You can join teams, be a part of builds. Even this late in the season, teams are getting ready for next season and trying to think of ways to spice it up. So always feel free to be a part of the community. And if not, just watching the video helps us out a ton. So this has been Capsule Cast. I'm your host, DoorGuard.
I'm Donut.
And I'm the commentator, head coach, stats guy, Ryan.
Also,
Sweet.
feel free to join the stats team. Always looking for new members.
Yes, please.
Oh yeah.
Yes, please.
And this has been Week 11 Capsule Cast.